Auzu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Welcome to week number 6, recorded lecture number 16. Well, in this week we will cover employment interviews. Right? So, today this is our first lecture about employment interviews. Alright, so an employment interview is a formal meeting during which both employer and applicant ask questions and exchange information, right? One thing that we must keep in mind that it's a two-way process. Of course, most of the time, employers ask questions to the applicant, but applicant can also ask some questions, of course with the consent and permission of the interviewers or the employers. So in fact this is a two-way exchange of information. In fact, most people consider job interviews extremely stressful and anxiety provoking. However, the more you learn about the process and the more prepared you are, the less stress you will feel. Right? So, if you are also among the people who are stressful about job interviews or employment interviews, so please do not consider that you are over stressed. Most of the people have it. Now, what we need to do, we need to learn more about the interviewing process, right? As we will cover this topic in this week recorded lectures, and we will learn how to prepare for it. Then you will be given preparation time, and the more you prepare according to the guidelines that will be discussed in these three recorded lectures, I'm sure the better you will be prepared. Most of my students who practiced employment interviews in business communication class, so when they returned after their degree and they got the job, some of them reported that 70 to 80% of the questions that they rehearsed during this employment interview activity were the same in actual job interview. So it means if you too also prepare and rehearse well, so you are likely to come across 70 to 80% of the same questions, right? Of course, there can be slight changes in the questions. One thing, let us be very clear from the very beginning that employment interview is not your final year project viva voce or your final year project presentation. Why do I say so? Because many engineering students, my particular example is engineering, because in my last 13-14 years experience at NAD, I've been guiding students for employment interviews. So most of engineering students, they think that in order to appear in an employment interview, they should have command of their subject. Yes, command of your subject is very important. You may be food engineer, telecom engineer, or materials engineer, or any other branch of, you may be from any other branch of engineering. That is very important. But from interview perspective, from job interview perspective, your 100% interview questions are not going to be about your field of specialization. For example, like all of you will appear in your final year project viva or presentation, right? Your final year project viva or presentation is going to be about the project that you will be completing. So it is limited in scope, and hence students think that job interview will also be limited only to our field. That is not correct, right? Job interview covers your field also, but it has many other areas. For example, your motivation level, your future plan, your hobbies, your interest level, your readiness, your communication skills, your non-verbal skills, and a number of things that they want to explore in an appropriate candidate. So please do not consider that your employment interviews are going to be like your final year projects, which will be limited only to your projects or only to your field. Yes, your field can be when a specialist in your area interviews you. Obviously, that particular interview can have maximum questions about your field, but that is not the only type of interview. That is one among many types of interviews that we shall be discussing today. Well, let's move towards purposes of employment interview. So we will be discussing these purposes from two perspectives. First one that we are taking, that is from a job, from a candidate perspective, it is an important opportunity, right? This job interview from a job candidate perspective, it's an important opportunity to convince the employer for your potential, right? From a candidate perspective, from an applicant perspective, from your perspective, it is an opportunity for you where you can convince the uh, employer for your potential. You know, the skills, the skill set that you have, you can convince your employer that you are an appropriate candidate for the particular job. Second, it's again an important opportunity for a candidate to learn more about the job and the company. Now, this is not that you don't know anything about the job and company and you just reach for the interview. Of course, you must do your homework before going to the for the interview. You must get information about that company, about that job description, right? But actually, when you are in the interview, you will learn more about it. But it doesn't mean you shouldn't learn. You should do your homework and you should start. I would suggest that now onwards you should start learning about the companies, your prospective employers. Though you have 1.5 year to go, but slowly and gradually, whenever you have some time, you should visit their website, you should know about them. Maybe you should read your professional magazines that can help you know more about the companies, your potential employers. Well, it third thing, it's an opportunity to expand on the information in your resume, right? Maybe after having this experience, you can expand on the information on your resume, sometimes also pronounced as resume, but in English, more common pronunciation is resume. Well, it it gives you an opportunity to know whether you would fit in the company culture or not, right? Not necessarily that every candidate is a good fit for every type of organizational culture. So it provides you an opportunity to find out whether that company culture is appropriate for you, or you will be able to adjust in that or not. Well, it also helps the candidate to find out whether this job suits your career goals. Maybe your career goals are different from uh, the ones that are offered on the job. Maybe that job has a limited scope and you would like to go beyond that scope, or beyond your goals are beyond that scope that organization or the job offers you. So it can help you, understand that as well. Now let's see from uh, employer's perspective. The previous slide focused on, looking at the job interview or employment interview from candidate's perspective. Now, in this slide, we are going to see, understand uh, this job interview from employer's perspective. It's also an opportunity for an employer to do many things, to find out many things about the candidates who are applying for the job. So, from the employer's perspective, the interview is an opportunity to assess the candidate's abilities in relation to the requirements for the position. So, in by interviewing or by having multiple interviews, the employer gets this opportunity to assess you. You means all candidates who are applying for the job, right? And they can match your skills, your abilities, your knowledge according to the job they are looking for which they are looking an appropriate candidate. So that's an opportunity for them uh, to assess your abilities. Next, it's again, a chance for the employer to discuss your training, your experience, knowledge, and abilities in more detail. Though usually candidates have this all in their resume or in their CV, but uh, you know that's not the complete detail. If employers want to learn more about it, they want to verify it, they want to cross check your training and experience and knowledge and abilities, then uh, interview employment interview or job interview provides them this opportunity to discuss candidates training in detail, experience in detail, and to also assess knowledge and abilities of the candidates who are applying for the job. They also can know through this interview, they would also know or they have an opportunity to see what drives and motivates you, because motivation is very important for doing a job. Even if somebody has reasonable knowledge about that job, but if the person is not motivated to do that, obviously that person is not going to perform as good as somebody with motivation would perform that. So they also get this opportunity to see what drives and motivates you, what are the factors that motivate you, so that they can judge your personality as well, right? It also gives them, a chance to decide whether you fit into the organization or not. Like we saw in the previous organization, that candidate sees whether his or her goals meet the organization's goal or whether they match with them. Similarly, every candidate may not be a good fit into every organization. Well, again, this term good fit does not mean, because it's not only, as I have already discussed, it's not only knowledge of your subject, there are many other factors, right? Your grooming, your motivation, your enthusiasm, your skills, your presentation skills, your communication skills, your behavior, they all are important. So different organizations can have different requirements. Some may focus more on behavior, others may focus more on communication. Few more may focus more on the field only. So through interview, they also come to know whether you are a good fit for the organization or not. Now let's move towards screening interviews. These screening interviews are basically initial level interview or interviews. There can be one or there can be more than one screening stage interviews, right? Well, the purpose of screening stage interviews is to screen candidates to eliminate those who fail to meet minimum requirements. Of course, the employment decision is not made on screening interviews, right? For example, if the if an organization uh, offers jobs in your relevant field and that job advertisement was published in national level newspapers, right? So maybe there are uh, 200 resumes for the job, because if that is a good organization and a reputed one, and if that offers a good career and handsome salary and all those benefits are there, then we can expect around 200 or maybe even more than that resumes or CVs for that. Now, they cannot call everyone for the resume or they cannot call everyone for the interview, right? Because interviewing 200 people would take too much time. So the first level can be that they can screen candidates through screening interviews, right? And they would just check whether those candidates meet minimum requirements for the job or not. And those who do not meet this minimum criterion, they are screened out. They are not taken ahead for next level interviews. So, second purpose of screening interviews is to save time and money by weeding out lesser qualified candidates before scheduling face to face or video interviews. As I have already said, it's time taking, and if it's face to face interview and if company pays for you know for the visit to the interview, then that can be expensive also. And again, the experts who would be interviewing, of course they would be leaving some other job to interview the candidates. So that's why they do it to save time and money by taking out less qualified candidate or those who do not come up to the uh, minimum level of that job requirement. Well, maybe these screening interviews may be conducted during job fairs, like uh, different job fairs are organized in hotels or some other places, or they can also be carried out, conducted on college campuses like university campus. The organizations may come to NAD University to take this screening stage interview. They usually take place by telephone or video. This is also a common trend these days, especially in the cases when uh, you know the interviewer is out of a station, like you are living in another city, in another province or in another country. Then usually screening stage interviews take place through telephone or through video conferencing, right? Well, initial screening interviews can cover details about the education and experience listed on your resume. So they are limited in a scope, right? They usually do not have open-ended questions, such questions that require a detailed answer. Usually they won't ask you about your future goals, so they usually will be limited to uh, you know to your education and experience that you have listed in your resume. Right. Now moving towards hiring and placement interviews. Once screening is done and the team has screened out those who did not meet minimum basic requirements, after that the hiring or placement interviews take place. There are a number of there can be a number of hiring or placement interviews before an applicant or a candidate is finalized for the job or finalized for the post. Well, the most promising candidates selected from screening interviews are invited to hiring or placement interviews, right? That at the first level, all those who were irrelevant, who did not meet minimum criteria, or uh, who were a misfit, and whatever the basic characteristics were set, they were not found in them, they are taken out at the screen A stage, and the remaining ones are then selected for the next level, that is hiring or placement interviews. Hiring managers want to learn whether candidates are motivated, qualified, and a good fit for the position. Their goal is to learn how the candidate would fit into their organization. See, these hiring managers usually are not the field specialist people. Like if you are food engineer or mechanical engineer or civil engineer, petroleum engineer or telecom engineer, right? They may not be from your field. They can be from business management. But while they are interviewing you, these hiring managers, when they interview you, they have these things in their mind, that you are motivated or not, you are appropriately qualified or not, or you are good fit for the organization, or you are not a good fit for organization. Well, these hiring or placement interviews, they are conducted in depth, right? Like screening stage interviews, usually they are not conducted in depth, as already discussed, that they may focus on education and experience that you have listed in your resume or CV. But these hiring or placement interviews, they are conducted in depth. Usually you come across open-ended questions, right? And interviewers take these interviews take many forms, right? These hiring and placement interviews, they are of different forms and different types, and each form or each type of interview can have a separate focus for the candidate. Like the first type within hiring or placement interviews is one-on-one interviews, where there is one interviewer and one applicant. Well, it's most common interview where a company representative talks about the job and candidate qualifications. Okay, secondly, if the representative is the hiring manager, questions will be specific and job related, right? In this one on one interview, if the representative or the interviewer is the hiring manager, then the question will be specific and job related, right? If the representative is from human resources, the question will probably be more general, right? Because human resources people uh, won't be all that field specific or field limited. They can ask questions from a different perspective. For example, they can ask about your future goals. For example, they can ask about your hobbies, so on and so forth. Okay, well, moving towards the second type of hiring or placement interviews, they are panel interviews, right? These panel interviews typically conducted by people who will be your supervisors and colleagues. There will be a number of people. They can be, you know, we cannot say set a minimum limit, but usually 3 to 4 would be minimum, and maximum they can be around 10 or so. Again, it depends on the nature of the job you are applying for and level of the job. Well, these panel interviews usually are conducted in a setting where people are seated around a table and interviewers take turns in asking questions. Usually, it is a round table, and one by one, interviewers would ask questions to the candidate and finalize the candidate. Well, panel interviews are advantageous because they save the company time and money, and they show you how the staff works together, right? Because all sitting together and finalizing then and there whether who is more appropriate candidate and who is less appropriate, or they may set a merit list and finalize, you know sequence the candidates according to their preference, or according to their selection preference. Well, if possible, before these interviews, these panel interviews, try to gather basic biographical information about each panel member. This information may be available on the company website or LinkedIn. Well, that information, basic information about interviewers, can help you what sort of questions they are likely to ask you. If you have an acquaintance, a friend, or a relative working for that organization, you can ask that employee about the panel members, right? If you know who the panel members would be, so knowing about them will actually help you better prepare about those questions that you can expect from the panel. Well, when answering questions, maintain eye contact with the questionnaire as well as with the others. For example, there was a panel of 5 members, and Mr. A asks you a question. So, while answering Mr. A, yes, you may maintain more contact, more time of eye contact. You may give more time to your eye contact with Mr. A, but at the same time, you should not be ignoring remaining 4 members who are sitting there. So you should spare some time to maintain your eye contact with the other members as well, since they are part of the same panel. Well, expect to repeat information you may have given in earlier interviews. Like if you had already appeared in one-on-one interview, and then now you have been called for the panel interview, you may have to give the similar information. Many questions may get repeated, right? So there is no need to get irritated. There is no need to look bored that why they are asking you the same questions again and again. Well, be ready that there can be the questions can be repeated. Okay, moving forward to the third type, that is group interviews. And group interviews uh, occur when a company interviews several candidates for the same position at the same time. For example, they announced a fresh engineer job, and there were 5 candidates who applied for the job. Now, if 5 of the candidates are called together and they are seated at the same place and they are being interviewed at the same time, It means that is group interview. So when company interviews several candidates for the same position at the same time in the same room, I mean, you are not being called one by one. Well, some employers use this technique to evaluate leadership skills and communication style. Your interpersonal skills are very important in this group interviews. They would actually want to know how you interact with others, how you behave with them, you know, to what extent you can lead and to what extent you can convince people through your communication style, right? They want to know your ability to be a leader, to be a manager, to be an organizer, to be an effective communicator, right? So the focus of group interviews usually is like leadership skills, communication style. In fact, your interpersonal skills are focused in these group interviews. Well, during a group interview, stay focused on the interviewer and treat the other candidates with respect. You know, if they give you some topic to discuss, just stay focused to the topic. Do not go beyond the limits. Do not bring unnecessary and irrelevant things in that discussion or interview. And since this is being observed how you behave with others, so you have to be respectful to the other interviewees, despite you know that they are your competitors, but of course they are not your enemies. You have to keep, you know, better level of relationship and understanding with them. You have to be respectful to the other fellow candidates who are applying for the post. Well, even if you are nervous, try to remain calm, take your time when responding, and express yourself clearly. Well, some of you may get little confused because there are many people, some of them may try to talk too much, but again, that does not mean that he or she is performing well if a person is taking most of the time. That may be viewed negatively, right? So do not get confused that others are speaking too much and you know. So you can take your time, be clear about it, be specific, take your turn. Once you have taken your turn, also give others opportunity to speak, because that would be a negative characteristics, that you do not let anybody else speak and you are taking the whole time. Well, the key during a group interview is to make yourself stand out from the other candidates in a positive way. Well, at the end of the interview, you you prove yourself, you different from others, different in positive way, not in negative way, right? That, for example, at the end, the interviewers come to know that you are a better behaved person, that you have good communication skills, that you take care of others, that you are respectful to others, and these are positive characteristics. So you know, if you have them at the end of the interview, that makes you stand out, you look different from others. So that's it for today. Thank you very much. We will discuss remaining types of hiring or placement interviews in the next recorded lecture. Take care.